Rosamund Pike, who played Moiraine in the Wheel of Time series, is speaking out on exactly why she thinks the show was canceled. And she claims it was due to the terrible churn factor and that executives want to see something shiny and new. Roll this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. So if you haven't been paying attention to Wheel of Time news, the show was canceled, scrapped following the conclusion of season 3. And that was done in May. At the time, Deadline's Nelly Andreeva claimed the show was getting scrapped due to poor viewership. This is what she reported. The season 3 overall performance was not strong enough compared to the show's cost for Prime Video to commit to another season, and the streamer could not make it work after examining different scenarios and following discussions with lead studio Sony TV, sources said. So viewership was not good. They were spending too much money, not getting a return on the show, and that is why it was scrapped, at least according to that report in May, following the show being canceled after season 3. So now, in an interview with Collider, Pike shared her own thoughts on why the show was scrapped. First, she admitted that the show struggled out of the gate. She said the fans said season 1 wasn't good enough, which I think I agree with for multiple reasons. We were beset by COVID in the middle of our shooting. We had some heads of department change. The script was awful. You literally had Perrin killing a wife that he never actually had in the books, and it kind of just ruined his character arc from there. You're completely changing the source material from the very first episode. The only thing that they actually got right were the creature designs in the Trollocs. Pretty much everything else was just absolutely terrible, and that was in just the first episode. In fact, so many people just stopped watching after the first episode, and myself included. Obviously, I watched a couple more episodes, I think, but I didn't really make it past that first season. I didn't even finish the first season. That's how bad it was, and I've read all of the books, a big Wheel of Time fan, and I just couldn't make it because the show was just completely unfaithful to the books. It was absolutely terrible. Anyways, she goes on and claims they righted the ship with season 2 and says, then by season 2, we knew what we were doing and we offered up a much better season. By season 3, I think we had our wings fully spread and we were showing where we were capable of going. And there was a really well-acted, well-written, cohesive, deep show that was attracting powerhouse actors to come and play supporting characters. I think we showed what we were capable of doing with that material. Now, as for why the series got scrapped, this is what she said. Of course, you wonder, had we started off at that place, would we not have been canceled? She's saying if they had started off where they were in season 3, understanding the books, claiming to understand the books. She says, maybe, I think we're possibly victims to the terrible churn factor of people wanting to show that we've got a new show. It's all about what's new. So she's claiming they got scrapped because Amazon wanted something new and shiny rather than something that was going to be sustainable in the long run. That just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I would think you would want something sustainable for the long run that is going to continue to bring in people, continue to attract people, continue to grow your audience, something that they did with Reacher season 2, as much as I have complaints about that show. But it did indeed increase the number of people watching it from season 1 to season 2, whereas Wheel of Time was constantly declining. People were jumping ship, no longer watching the show because of how absolutely terrible it was. While the show will no longer continue on Amazon, Pike hopes that it will be picked up somewhere else, albeit she does not believe that will happen. She says, in my dreams, another studio would be wise and pick it up. We have such an amazing team now. We have the ability to make a great final sequence of seasons for this show. We know what to do with these books now, so who knows? But I think we have to accept that it's over. So that is actually a good thing to me, that this show is indeed not going to continue, because the show was literally propaganda in an attempt to normalize and push sodomy. And the showrunner literally admitted this in an interview promoting the season 3, promoting the upcoming, at the time it was promoting the upcoming season 3. And he said this while discussing why he turned Moiraine and Siwan into sodomizers with The Hollywood Reporter. And Rafe Judkins said this: it felt essential that their relationship be textual. It was one of the most important relationships in the books for how it drives plot. It's almost like the inciting incident of the show is contained within the relationship between these two. To me, the show didn't make sense without that relationship being explicit, because we are also putting more of the emphasis, certainly, on Rosamund Pike's character, Moiraine, than there is in the books. You're also always looking as an artist for, why am I telling this story? I have to devote my life to this for years and years. It was worth devoting my life to telling this beautiful story, but also that the lead was a queer character. So he's literally devoting his life because he wants to push homosexuality and sodomy. He's literally telling us that's what he was doing while attempting to promote and market the show for its third and what will ultimately be its final season. I've never seen a fantasy show where our lead was just casually a queer character that wasn't only directed at the queer community. To have that was an important part of why I wanted to tell this story and why I fell in love with the books in the first place. So what's ironic is that earlier in that interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he justified denigrating Robert Jordan's work by claiming the books were coded as gay, but then he admits that they actually were not gay. You can't even make this stuff up, right? He says a lot of it also, this is the 90s and early 2000s, was very coded. It's always women are pillow friends, they're not lesbians, but it's all there. When you're reading it, it felt like big billboard signs of these are queer stories, these are queer characters, especially in comparison to all the other fantasy I'd been reading. So he's claiming that the books, the original books that Robert Jordan wrote, were all queer coded and gay. But then what does he say here? For me, it was very important to find that in the show today. I felt like part of our job as artists who are adapting something is to bring it to life, not just word for word, but to also bring its context to life. And the context of Wheel of Time in the 90s is very different from the context of reading the books today. I wanted to infuse that into the show and hopefully let people who weren't seeing themselves in other fantasy shows see themselves in Wheel of Time. He's literally saying that he's changing it. He literally says the context of Wheel of Time in the 90s is very different from the context of reading the books today, but he's claiming that they were queer-coded when Robert Jordan was writing them. Like, get out of here. He's literally just straight up lying, and he admits he's lying within 2-3 sentences. And these people always do that. I can't tell you how many videos, how many articles I've written where these people literally straight up lie to our faces and then admit that they're lying a couple sentences later. I mean, it's just absolutely baffling to me that this is even acceptable, that we tolerate this stuff. This show never should have been greenlit. This guy was clearly trying to push an agenda, and he admits it. He admits what he's doing, and it was obvious what he was doing with the show. When these people getting these returns should have seen what was going on. It should have been absolutely scrapped from the get-go. Instead, they wasted millions of dollars, didn't get any return, and they've burned a bridge. They've completely burned bridges with the audience. People are not going to give any kind of Wheel of Time adaptation likely the time of day moving forward because of just how bad it was, unless they wait about a decade and bring in totally different people who are actually going to try to do the property the true justice that it deserves. And so I don't buy what Rosamund Pike is selling here, that they just wanted something shiny and new. No, I think I'm going to buy the Deadline report here where Prime Video was not going to commit to another season because the season 3 overall performance was not strong enough compared to the show's cost. That's really, I think, what happened. You can see that in the viewership, massive declines, and it got absolutely scrapped. And as it should have been, it should have been scrapped. Never should have gotten greenlit in the first place with Rafe Judkins and his team trying to do what they did with the show. And that is on the leadership of Amazon, MGM Studios, and Prime Video, Jennifer Salke, who fortunately is no longer there now. And we'll see what happens moving forward, if they will actually right the ship or they will continue to push this stuff. Everything we're kind of seeing coming out of the movie, TV industry, all these streamers, they're still going to be pushing this stuff, but we'll see what happens. But it is a good thing that this show is now canceled. And Rosamund Pike's speculation, her reasoning for why it was canceled, I think is just a load of bunk. And she's just trying to spin a narrative to avoid what really caused the show to be canceled. It veered away from the source material. It tried to push this disgusting, wicked, woke agenda, and people stopped watching. And their costs outweighed the actual revenue the show was bringing in. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.
Why would you be afraid of the people? Why are you not afraid of God instead of man?